President Boris Yeltsin of Russia brought another political crisis on himself today by sacking his Prime Minister Yevgeny Primakov and the entire government. Parliament, which tomorrow starts debating impeachment proceedings against the president, said he should go. Today, Mr Yeltsin also threatened to pull Russia out of the talks on the Kosovo crisis. ITN's Mark Webster reports.
Plunging Russia into further political turmoil, the Kremlin tonight was left to consider the fallout after sacking the one man who'd brought stability back to the country. Analysts say Mr Primakov was a victim of his own popularity, eclipsing the ailing president. And though Russia is poised to play a vital diplomatic role over the Kosovo crisis, Mr Yeltsin insisted he had to have a new government.
Сегодня оттяжки и промедления убежден.
Today, delays and procrastination, I'm sure, are the most serious blow to the economy and the country's social fabric. Therefore, I had to take this difficult but necessary decision to sack the government.
Yet shortly after that broadcast, he welcomed Sergei Stepashin to the Kremlin. He's a political lightweight with no economic experience. It seems the 47-year-old former Interior Minister's main claim to the job of Prime Minister appears to be his unswerving loyalty to Mr Yeltsin. During the weeks that President Yeltsin lay sick in his hospital bed, Mr Primakov got on with the business of running the country and building a power base. While he always denied he had any ambitions to become president himself, it's clear that Mr Yeltsin bitterly resented his growing authority. Now the president has taken his revenge. He's the one who looks dangerously exposed. Mr Yeltsin badly needs international prestige if Russia is to broker a settlement in Kosovo. That won't stop the Russian parliament, the Duma, but the communist majority will probably reject his choice of Prime Minister. Mark Webster, ITN, Moscow.
Well, as we heard, Russia is supposed to be a key player in the search for a peace deal in Yugoslavia. So where does President Yeltsin's decision to sack his government leave the Kosovo crisis? Here's Robert Moore.
The turmoil that has swept through Russian politics today did not interrupt its Balkan diplomacy. Moscow's envoy Viktor Chernomyrdin was meeting senior American diplomats to discuss future moves over Kosovo. Russian mediation now appears to enjoy the backing of China. Returning to Beijing today were some of the embassy staff injured in the NATO bombing, an attack that has brought China into the Balkan equation. But the German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder was meeting the Chinese President Jiang Zemin, offering what he called an unconditional apology, but also requesting that China does not obstruct the West's policy over Kosovo. The leadership in Beijing is even reported to be offering troops to help enforce a settlement in Kosovo. Chinese soldiers deployed in Europe would be another remarkable twist to this crisis. But on the ground in the southern Balkans, NATO Secretary General Javier Solana was talking not of compromise, but of a NATO victory. In emotional scenes, he was mobbed by refugees, grateful for the Western military action, and in return he offered them a promise.
We will guarantee you a future in your country, and there, my dear friends, and there we will be together soon.
In Brussels, the NATO spokesman rebuffed those who said that after 50 days, the air war was failing.
I would simply say that the game's not over yet, quite frankly. And I don't think we should start writing the history books until the final results are in.
But whatever is written in those history books, the political crisis in Moscow and the unexpected engagement of China in Kosovo is adding further uncertainty to the search for a diplomatic settlement. Robert Moore, ITN, at the Foreign Office.
Members of the first Scottish Parliament since the early 18th century took their seats in Edinburgh today. They elected the former Liberal leader, Lord Steele, as presiding officer or speaker. But that projected Labour Lib Dem deal leading to coalition government was still proving elusive. Our Scotland political correspondent Harry Smith reports.
Tonight, in an office near the new Parliament building, Labour and the Liberal Democrats are still locked in negotiations. After a day which saw the new Parliament sworn in, the final shape of its political makeup is still unclear. Donald Dewar was the first to take the oath of allegiance to the Queen. Alex Salmon prefaced his oath by declaring loyalty to the Scottish people.
As an SNP parliamentary group, our primary loyalty is with the people of Scotland, in line with the Scottish constitutional tradition of the sovereignty of the people.
Tommy Sheridan, the Parliament's only member of the Scottish Socialist Party, raised a clenched fist to indicate that he was swearing allegiance to the Queen under protest. In the Parliament's first vote, David, now Lord Steele, was elected to be the first Speaker. Tomorrow is the day Labour have pencilled in for Donald Dewar to be elected First Minister in the new Parliament. Whether or not that still goes ahead on schedule could well depend on the outcome of the talks still taking place here tonight. Harry Smith, ITN, Edinburgh.
The former Cabinet Minister Ron Davies, who resigned over that famous incident on Clapham Common, was snubbed today in the new Welsh National Assembly. He didn't get a place in the Welsh Cabinet, named by his successor Alan Michael. Here's our Wales correspondent Tim Rogers.
With the symbol of the Welsh dragon overseeing their first day of business, the 60 members of the new Assembly elected Labour's Alan Michael unopposed as their first secretary. He called for a new brand of inclusive politics. But posing with his new cabinet later, there was one omission: the architect of devolution, Ron Davies.
Obviously, I'm very disappointed. I've been associated over the years with creating the National Assembly. I have a vision of how the Assembly should develop, and Alan has decided that there is no role for me in this cabinet.
Mr. Davies had hoped the Assembly would give him a way back.
But while Ron Davies was disappointed, this has been a day which has ended with high hopes of a new style of politics and has given the Welsh people a new voice. Tim Rogers, ITN, Cardiff.
Detectives working on the Jill Dando murder